Every family seeks a babysitter they can trust. For the Harper family, that person was Lydia Wells. Lydia was more than a babysitter, she was family. Claire and David Harper trusted her with their most precious treasure, their daughter, Emma. But sometimes, trust can be the deadliest mistake. They never saw the darkness beneath Lydia's gentle smile. She was always there, a comforting presence, someone who never seemed to ask for anything in return. To Claire, she was a gift, patient, kind, and endlessly devoted. To Emma, she was a second mother. And to David, she was a reliable constant in their busy lives. But beneath the surface, something festered. Something unspoken. A storm brewing just out of sight. It started with small moments, an unreadable glance, a lingering silence, and unease that settled like dust in the air. The Harpers couldn't have known that behind Lydia's quiet exterior lay something far more sinister. A need for control. A hunger for something more. A darkness waiting to be unleashed. Lydia's childhood wasn't just marked by neglect, it was defined by it. Her mother, Eleanor, ruled their home with an iron fist, doling out affection like a scarce resource. "You earn love," Eleanor would say, her voice sharp and unyielding. For Lydia, this meant striving endlessly for approval that rarely came. If she excelled in school, Eleanor would demand better grades. If she kept the house immaculate, Eleanor would find fault in some minor detail. Over time, Lydia internalized these lessons, believing that worthiness was something to be fought for, not given freely. Her father's absence only deepened her sense of isolation. He worked long hours at a factory job across town, returning home late and often drunk. When he did appear, his interactions were brief and distant. To young Lydia, he seemed like a ghost haunting the edges of her life, offering neither comfort nor guidance. By the time she reached adolescence, she had stopped expecting anything from him altogether. In this void of emotional connection, Lydia discovered power through control. She began organizing every aspect of her life, her schoolwork, her belongings, even her thoughts. This obsessive need for order became her coping mechanism, shielding her from the chaos of her environment. At school, she remained quiet and unassuming, but behind closed doors, she meticulously planned her days, writing down schedules and goals in journals that served as both confessions and manifestos. When she entered the Harper household, Lydia saw an opportunity to rewrite her own story. Here was a family that appeared whole, complete with loving parents and a cherubic child. They had what she lacked, a stable foundation built on mutual care and respect. Yet beneath their polished exterior lay cracks that Lydia quickly identified. Claire's strained smiles during David's absences spoke volumes about the tension simmering between them. And Emma, despite her cheerful demeanor, carried the weight of her parents' unrest without fully understanding it. To Lydia, the Harpers weren't just clients, they were puzzles waiting to be solved. She immersed herself in their lives, learning their quirks and vulnerabilities until she could anticipate their needs before they even voiced them. When Claire struggled to balance work and motherhood, Lydia stepped in seamlessly, cooking meals and tidying up without being asked. When David returned home late, Lydia ensured Emma was already tucked into bed, sparing him the guilt of missing bedtime rituals. Each act of kindness solidified her role as the glue holding the Harper family together, or so it seemed. But Lydia's motivations ran deeper than mere altruism. What started as admiration for the Harper lifestyle slowly morphed into obsession. She convinced herself that she wasn't merely helping them, she was fixing them. In her mind, she was the architect of their happiness, the guardian against all threats, real or imagined. And if anyone dared to challenge her authority, or worse, take away what she believed belonged to her, the consequences would be dire. For Lydia, possession wasn't just about belonging, it was about survival. It was one night that changed everything. Lydia overheard a conversation she was never meant to hear. The affair. The betrayal. The lies. Claire's hushed voice on the phone, the desperate whispers, the quiet sobs in the middle of the night. Something inside Lydia snapped. They don't deserve this. Claire was weak. She didn't deserve Emma. And David. David was no better. They were selfish, reckless. They were destroying the family that Lydia had come to love. The family she had convinced herself belonged to her. That night, something inside her shifted. She sat in Emma's room, watching the child sleep, her small hands clutching her favorite stuffed bear. Lydia made a decision. If Claire and David were too blind to see what was best for Emma, then she would have to make them see. She started isolating Emma, subtly turning her against her parents. Sometimes parents make mistakes, she whispered, brushing the little girl's hair. But I'll always protect you. Lydia's grip on the family tightened. She intercepted Claire's texts, deleted David's voicemails, made sure Emma confided only in her. One by one, she removed the barriers. The distance grew. Claire began to question herself, to doubt her own abilities as a mother. And when Lydia saw the fear flicker in Claire's eyes, she knew she had won. But winning wasn't enough. Not yet. Lydia became bolder. She planted small traps, Claire's favorite necklace misplaced, her perfume bottle shattered on the bathroom floor. The little frustrations built up, turning into paranoia. The unease in Claire's eyes deepened, while Lydia remained her ever-dependable presence. Emma's trust in her grew stronger. The child, confused by her mother's erratic behavior, found solace in Lydia's constant affection. It wasn't just about Emma anymore. It was about control. About proving that Lydia was the one who truly belonged in their lives. And soon, she was ready to take the next step. Claire's world began to unravel thread by thread, each small incident weaving a tapestry of doubt and fear. Lydia's presence loomed larger with every passing day, her subtle manipulations tightening the noose around Claire's sanity. The misplaced keys, the disappearing stuffed animals, the unlocked doors, these weren't mere accidents. They were calculated moves designed to destabilize Claire's sense of security. At first, Claire tried to rationalize them as oversights caused by her own exhaustion or stress. But deep down, she knew something was off. David, caught up in his own guilt and mounting work pressures, dismissed Claire's concerns. "You're just tired," he'd say, pulling her into a brief hug before retreating back to his office. His lack of support only fueled Claire's growing unease. She felt isolated, trapped in a house that no longer felt like home. The walls seemed to close in on her, the shadows whispering secrets she couldn't quite grasp. Lydia, meanwhile, continued her quiet campaign of destruction. She positioned herself as Emma's rock, offering comfort and reassurance when Claire grew distant or overwhelmed. To Emma, Lydia became more than just a babysitter. She was a confidant, a protector, someone who truly understood her needs. "I'll always be here for you," Lydia would murmur, her voice soft and soothing. "No matter what." Those words resonated deeply with Emma, who craved stability amidst the turmoil of her parents' strained relationship. One night, Claire returned from an errand to find the front door wide open, the cold autumn air seeping into the house. Her heart raced as she rushed through the rooms, calling out for Emma. Relief washed over her when she found her daughter safe and asleep in bed, but the fear lingered long after she closed the bedroom door. Who had left the door open? And why? The questions swirled in her mind, gnawing at her already fragile state of mind. Things took a darker turn when Emma started talking about a game, a secret game Lydia had taught her. A game where she had to stay very, very quiet. Claire froze, her blood running cold at the implications. What kind of game was this? Why hadn't Lydia mentioned it to her? The more she pressed Emma for details, the more evasive the little girl became, clutching her stuffed bear tightly as if it were her only anchor in a confusing world. The gaslighting intensified, becoming more overt with each passing day. Lydia would accidentally misplace Claire's phone, only to conveniently find it later when Claire became frantic. These incidents weren't random, they were deliberate, chipping away at Claire's confidence and self-assurance. Emma, too, began withdrawing from her mother, responding to her with a cold indifference that cut deeper than any wound. Claire felt like she was losing her daughter, watching helplessly as the bond they once shared frayed beyond repair. And then came the final blow, the moment that shattered Claire's remaining hope. One night, as she tucked Emma into bed, the little girl whispered softly, her voice tinged with sadness, "Lydia says you don't love me." The words hit Claire like a physical blow, stealing her breath and leaving her reeling. How could Lydia say such a thing? How could she poison Emma's mind so cruelly? In that instant, Claire realized the full extent of Lydia's manipulation. It wasn't just about control, it was about erasure. Lydia wasn't satisfied with merely inserting herself into the Harper family. She wanted to erase Claire entirely, replacing her as the central figure in Emma's life. The realization sent a wave of terror coursing through Claire's veins. She knew then that she had to act, before Lydia's web of deceit consumed them all. And then, Claire saw it, the truth staring back at her. She found Lydia in Emma's room late at night, sitting beside her bed, whispering in the dark. She wasn't soothing Emma. She was telling her something Claire couldn't quite hear. "Lydia," Claire's voice was sharp, cutting through the silence. "What are you doing?" Lydia turned slowly, her face unreadable. "Taking care of her," she said simply. Claire felt the floor tilt beneath her. This wasn't right. None of this was right. And then she saw it, the small kitchen knife, hidden beneath Emma's pillow. Panic surged through her. Lydia stepped forward, her eyes dark, unwavering. "She needs me, Claire. Not you." A struggle. A scream. And then, police sirens. Lydia Wells was arrested that night, charged with attempted murder. The Harpers survived, but the scars ran deep, etched into their lives like permanent scars on skin. They had trusted her, welcomed her into their home, and nearly paid the ultimate price. Claire wrestled with an overwhelming sense of guilt, replaying every interaction in her mind. How had she missed the warning signs? The intense glances, the possessive behavior, the way Lydia seemed to blur the lines between employee and family member, it had all been right there, hidden in plain sight. As Lydia was led away in handcuffs, she paused for a moment, turning slightly to look at Claire. Her lips curled into a faint, chilling smile, a reminder that some monsters don't just disappear, they leave behind remnants of fear and distrust, haunting those they've touched long after they are gone. For the Harpers, life would never be the same again.